what's going on, everyone? How's everyone doing? It's me, it's RHMB today, and today's stream, well, it's been a while, hasn't it? It's been a while indeed. I can see everyone else is in the chat. Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome, Red. Welcome, Roswell. Welcome, Play. Welcome, Masur. And welcome, Avocado. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Today's stream is going to be a really interesting topic. Today, we're going to be getting back to the basics. So as you guys know, this stream is heavily centered on, well, as you can see in the title, the basics, right? Back to the basics, back to the lab again. Back to the lab again. So, how's everyone doing first and foremost? What's up? Finally, some good quality content. How you doing, man? So, yeah, first and foremost, I just want to clarify to everyone that we're really going to be focusing on getting into the main center point of what it means to power scale, right? We're going to go back over the basics again. We're going to talk about a couple of the problems we're dealing with now. Looking at Dragon Ball's cosmology a little bit during the stream. It's not going to be the longest stream, but we're definitely going to get some information, right? So, yeah, that's good. Great. Playing some Portum, not bad. Yeah, I mean, so let's go ahead and jump right in. So, primarily, power scaling. Thanks, B10s. Welcome to the stream. So, power scaling. Where do I begin? So, power scaling is something that's been around for a long time. And there are different ways you can power scale mini characters from mini series. It's important to understand that you can interpret different feats in different ways, because what we may call in science, one may call something else in another subject. Hey Donaz, welcome to the stream, aka Joker. What's up, Omni John? Welcome. How you doing today? Glad you guys were able to make it. Got to see people coming back. Wow, I'm getting a lot of interesting support today. It's awesome. That's awesome. So what we're going to be doing, guys, is we're going to talk a little bit about, like I said, power scaling, the very basics of it. So as you can see a little avatar above the character, you can see that is the feats, statements, and lore, a little Venn diagram I've made before. And the whole premise of why those stand there is because those are the key components to pretty much anything you're going to do in power scaling. But I also need to address the stream as far as like realism and painting perspective. So let's begin with the first problem. And I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. As you guys can see, that's the first problem right here that we already see. And that's the issue, okay? The issue. This is the first thing we need to discuss real quick. The issue. So what is the issue of power scaling right now currently? So let's kind of like take a peep at it real quick. So power scaling's main issue is you have a lot of people jumping the gun and trying to get into things they don't understand. 3 things I've noticed from people, 3 things. A lack of reading comprehension or double checking the source. The second one is validating sources through citation or giving actual meaning. And then number 3 is taking the meaning and expanding it further than what it actually entails, which generally comes down to, in layman's terms, basically, I don't have any evidence. I don't have any evidence. I'm making a big conjecture out of the whole thing. And at the end of the day, I have a form of bias with the character. And that's fine, because at the end of the day, power scaling is always going to differ for each individual. So it's never going to be perfect, right? So in that, there we go. So with that being said, power scaling is always going to differ for everyone, and it's always going to be, you know, slightly different for each individual person. So that's important. Yo, Roz, with the donation, much appreciated, man. Thank you so much. Wow. Roz, thank you for the $10 donation. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, man. That really means a lot to me. Thank you so much for always being supportive, man, like you've always been. You've been supportive for years now. I really appreciate it. Thank you again. So I want to also kind of tell you guys one more thing about this as well. Thank you so much, Masuda. I appreciate that. So I want to kind of talk a little bit about the issue with power scaling is, like I said, those three main things. People take a character and they assume the character can be X, Y, Z, but there's no validation. And what happens is, in Roz being a witness to the old school power scaling, since Roz and I have been doing this since 2015-ish, late 2015. I've been doing it kind of like in late 2015, a little bit of dabble in 2014, but not too deep. But we've been kind of dealing with this for a while, right? So we're quite literally about to hit our 10-year mark almost. But the thing is, you'll notice, is there's no more validation. So there's no more checking to make sure, hey, do these statements match, do these feats match these statements? And it doesn't always have to be. Does the lore... There it came through. Now, the sound effect you heard, it came mad late. Wow, so Roz started in 2012, so Roz has 12 years of experience. That's insane. Andre's been around since Google Plus. I remember we first started talking in 2015, late 2015. And again, power scaling is going to differ for every individual. But like I said before, guys, you're going to run into issues when you're never going to always agree with everyone. And that's because power scaling has changed. TikTok, due to the, people trying to pump out videos fast, some power scalers don't even really care about the power scaling or the results you're giving. They just kind of come up with a quick suggestion and then just kind of pump it out there. And I get that. Got to make some bread. But at the end of the day, we have to start doing some checks and balances again. People aren't doing that no more. Quite literally, nobody's doing that no more. And it's a little concerning. I'm not seeing... People are kind of just stating a feat is XYZ, but they're not really elaborating on it, and they're jumping to conclusion. The power scaling phenomena, or the rule of thumb, has always been, hey, the greater the feat, the greater the evidence needs to be, right? Simply because you could present, the higher the claim, the more evidence we're generally going to need. It needs to be very blatant. It needs to show a level of consistency. There are special occasions where consistency is not always needed, but we need to at least have something to go off of, right? Electron coming in with the whole acting like he's Bayonetta saying, Tati. Broken, hey, how you doing, man? Welcome to the stream. I'm glad you guys could make it. I would be much louder, but I can't because, people are sleeping. It's almost 11 o'clock at night. But let's get back to the basics. So we talked about the issue. So that's the issue. The issue is now everyone's throwing everything all over the place. Now, let's cut some examples. Feats, statements, and lore. Feats, statements, lore. What is feats, statements, and lore? Again, feat statements and lore, a lot of people don't really remember these basics, but feat statements and lore bring us way back in the day where we used to have, well, not way back in the day, but it's the structure of power scaling. Hey, I believe my character is this fast, this strong, and can do this. Okay. What feats do they have that support that? You bring your feats. Okay. What statements do they have to support that? You bring your statements. What does the story say that supports that? These are three elements that you need to all be in unison. And upon three other scaling methods we have to also talk about, which I think a lot of people sleep on. Actually, let me copy and paste this over here so we can kind of have a better picture. So with this, we also need to adjust this right here. There's not just feat statements and lower. There's also low, mid, and high. Low end, mid end, and high end. I'm actually the one who coined that term. Well, not coined the term, but I'm actually the one who elaborated on it further in amino apps. Because the idea was, well, you can have low end scales. But here's the purpose of these scales. The low end scale is designed to tell you here is the minimum of what a character can do, right? So the minimum weight Atari can lift is at least, like, I wouldn't expect him to lift less than, I wouldn't expect him to curl less than 10 pounds, right? That's the low end. The mid end is, okay, what is Atari seen most consistently doing that we know? Okay. The high end is, well, Atari could lift the St. Bernard, so if you assume both hands, he could theoretically curl like 50 pounds each. Theoretically. So it all comes down. Most of the time, high ends are always speculation, you'll notice. Low ends are usually easy to confirm, but you're using the bare basics to pretty much make a point. That's the whole reason you're doing it. The high end is you're pretty much trying to see how far can I reach? How big can we get? What's the highest they can go? And sometimes you need it to equalize a versus battle, but it also depends. But the key is the middle ground. See this right here? Middle ground. We want to be in the middle. Middle ground is where you're not just lower ending it to the lower end. You're trying to get the most objective evidence you can. I'm talking about these basics because a lot of people don't apply them anymore. And you'll see that all over Comic Vine. You'll see it over Comic Vine, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, or X. You'll see it on Versus Battle Wiki. It's all over the place. Even people who have good sense of scaling still commit it themselves. And it's surprising. Yo, Piccolo, thank you for stopping by. Dr. Slurp. Pause. The minimum wage is Alright, so let's go here. Let's go to our next segment, which again, we talked about the low end, mid, and high end. Now we're actually going to start getting into the thing that I want to talk about, perspective. This is when I kind of talk a little bit about different series. So let's start getting into some examples. So let's paint a perspective here. What is the most common battle you see all over like social media, right? So let's start actually taking these a little more serious. What's the most common battle you see on social media? I'll tell you, is this. I'm going to put a picture right here, and you'll see it right here. Take a look at this. Yeah, you see that? What I just showed you? You see this image? This is seriously one of the most common things you're going to see on social media for the most part. I wish I was joking with this, but no, for real. You will see this quite a bit, actually. And it's a little scary when you think about it, because why? Why is this the most common battle you see? And it becomes a problem when it starts to become the norm. Because it shows you people don't really utilize a sense of logic. Like if we're being, and it comes down to a lot of these being memes, but a lot of people also are very serious about it, like dead serious. It's as bad as when KeyCorp claimed that Goku and Beerus for some reason were living room level. You can ask Roz and Andre, they were there. He said that. If Sosa, Yamcha were here, like if they were all here, they knew, like KeyCorp used to do things like that. And he doesn't want to admit it, but he had a subconscious bias against Dragon Ball Super at the time. He never believed that they can be more than what we would state, despite all the evidence. And there would even become points where I would bring up everything to him, and he would have no choice but to either skip the question and dodge the answer, for look for a red herring, because he knows that he's not dumb, but bias can cause people to become foolish. Bias can make you do foolish things and make you say some things that aren't very logical. They block your levels of logic. So when you see these battles, we like One Punch Man. I like Saitama as a character. I think Saitama is a well written character. I mean, there's nothing really to hate about him, right? But there becomes a problem, right? When you see these battles, when people interpret Saitama in so many different ways that don't make sense, it shows the lack of reading comprehension or the lack of understanding how a narrative is. People will say, it's clear the author is trying to, and I'm like, we're not talking about just the author, we're talking about the overall power scaling as a whole, right? The author in conjunction with the consistency. So here's the problem with a battle like this. When I see battles like Saitama versus Goku, it makes me honestly cringe, right? Like if I'm taking the battle serious. Then you'll have people who actually think, and I kid you not, I'll show you. Let me see if I can pull up the image here. Actually, you know what? Yeah. How about I save the image? Yeah. Let's jump to the next page, guys. Let's put the image here. This is an actual battle you see people put all the time. And it's Saitama versus Frieza. And they're talking Namek Saga Frieza. They do mean Black Frieza, by the way. Some people do think he could fight Black Frieza. We're not going to entertain that. But let's talk about Manga Frieza. Specifically utilizing his canon issues. People are looking at speed and strength and either undermining it or overwhelming that's what they're doing, or over extrapolating it. And they do the same thing with hacks. I'm going to give you prime examples as to why, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm going to give you prime examples as to why Frieza versus Saitama is not even close. And I've probably, and those who've read what I posted, you know I'm going to say the same thing, but I'm going to use more visualizations here on the stream. So I did an objective video, or the best objectivity I could. I used Saitama's sneeze for the moon. I assumed he was large planet. Now keep in mind, if you actually read the chapter, which we're going to take a look at, Saitama didn't actually destroy the gravitational binding or actually blow up Jupiter. So in reality, his ability was more so chalked up to relatively planetary. Basically. It's not something you would consider actual large planetary, which is what we would hope or assume. But it's not. People thought it would be, but he actually didn't destroy Jupiter. But I said he did anyway. To kind of give you a perspective that, hey, if he actually did, we calculate how many joules of energy are in a sneeze compared to a full power punch, and we actually do the math, Saitama could be dishing out 5,000 times more force than his own sneeze, or joules of energy, in ratio to the power he increased, making him dwarf star level, like I said in my short. One Punch Man fans are upset about this. They are upset. As a One Punch Man fan myself, I'm shocked. Why are you upset? Star level, people act like star level's weak. And on top of that, I even said he could punch at the speed of light, and all his punches are likely that strong. I literally admitted on stream that Saitama could punch with dwarf star levels of power, and given the speed of light, how fast it takes for your arm to go from here to here. Like if you were at the speed of light going like that, imagine at the speed of light just. And if you think about it mentally, in a second, he can throw more than, I think, 750 billion punches or 210 trillion. It was along those lines. Think about it. Imagine getting hit with the star, right? Like you think of the Flash and his infinite mass punch. Forget that. That's nothing to Saitama. Saitama can do what the Flash did, the dwarf star level punch. But imagine Saitama doing that, hitting you 1 second. Because the Flash, he doesn't just keep spamming it. The Flash has to charge it and then hit it. He's like a donkey punch, right? Whereas Saitama, he treats it like a Super Smash Bros. Character's rapid jab. He could just... So imagine if Saitama actually fought you, right? Or a character. And they're getting hit with a barrage of trillions of dwarf star level. Even if you don't think it's dwarf star and you think that's only his serious punch, like that. Even if the ratio for an average punch versus a full power punch as well still calculates him to at least, like, I think 25% of planetary. So even then, with consecutive normal punches, he literally would be throwing billions of Earths at you in conjunction to how powerful he is. That's not a downplay. That's not. But the fans think it's a downplay. And I'm still surprised to this day. Why is that a downplay? Let's read some of the chat. People only know Ramiro Anos as someone who can beat Goku instead of watching their show. That is correct, Isaac Bell. Nobody actually knows how strong Ramiro is. Or if you tell them, quote me a scene from Ramiro. What other attacks does he have besides gluttony? You don't know. Yeah. So, the thing is, Saitama kept growing in the battle. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to correct Electron, who says it in the chat. Electron, let me give you a quick correction there. When you say somebody is fodder, and this is another issue with the power scaling community. When you say fodder, who are you comparing it to? Do you get it? Anyone can be pretty much fodder to anyone. If I take... Let me ask you a question. When you look at Feathering, she is so powerful. Like, so unbelievably powerful. If you take Feathering, and you... Thank you so much, Roz, for the $5 donation. Very appreciate it, man. Always coming through with the support. Love you, brother. Thank you again. If you take Feathering and compare her to the Emperor from Warhammer, Feathering is not fodder. Don't dare ever call Feathering fodder. But if you compare her to the Emperor from Warhammer, if you compare her to Otama Rogal, if you compare her to Lucifer from the Vertical DC Comics, if you compare her to the high utmost powers of the Phoenix and the Living Tribunal, upon inspection, you might find that she may be considered fodder. In their eyes, they may see her as nothing less than a simple foot soldier. But that's a comparison using higher beings. So I would never say Saitama is fodder without context. However, in this battle, thank you, Ross. I appreciate it. I'm definitely going to click on it a little bit later, but I want to do this without the video first. All right, let's watch it real quick. He built different. Yeah, this is what I just saw, everyone.
Power of stars.
Thanks again, Ross. This is what I've seen. Incredible. Incredible feat. But back to, thank you again, Ross, for that. And this is back to what I'm saying. Perspective. The perspective of that these characters are weak is only the perspective of when you compare them to others. Let's get into this Frieza and Saitama fight. I'm going to give you a prime example. And let's talk about Naruto too. Because people think Naruto characters can deal with Namekusada. I used to even say things like that. But in reality, when you actually use logic and take it down for a moment, let's actually start to understand the narrative and how they act. So let's show you one of the things. What is the most common thing you've seen Frieza do, right? The most common thing. Everyone knows the most common thing we've seen Frieza do. Let's take a look at the feat here. We're going to keep it in silence for the sake of copyright. But when you see Frieza do this, my friend, let me paint a perspective to a lot of people who don't understand. So I've already said this, and I've already did the math for myself, which is good. So I can just pretty much read off of it. But to give you guys an understanding, Saitama can throw punches that are each individually possibly planetary or dwarf star level, assuming he blew up Jupiter, but it would still be planet level even if he didn't blow it up due to the joules of energy required to pull off such a feat. But back to the main idea. Frieza did this form. Frieza did this, and pay attention, everyone. Just listen carefully to me. Frieza did this, all right, and in his first form, which was 530,000. So if you don't know what that looks like on the screen, because I kind of got to walk through some people, there could also be language barriers too. Frieza had 530,000 for his power level. So as 530,000, keep in mind his final form that he fought Goku in was 120 million when he was going all out. Now I will get to that in a minute, but Frieza did this. Now, El Manga Legendario actually states that you need a power level of 10,000 in order to accomplish such a feat. Now, this is impressive and this is true. However, there is something I do need to clarify. Now, I'm actually bringing this up because it was in the comment section and I think it is a good point and I should bring it up. So one of the comments actually said, and I love it, it's from WCOM9999, so shout out to WCOM. He says, I don't know on that guide because it has some contradictions. Same guide states Roshi in the 21st Budokai had the power to charge a star or a sun, which is larger of a feat than planetary destruction. He's right. But here's the real reality of it. This is where I actually, and you guys can clip this and send it to him, I don't care. This is where I agree with Surfbone. You have to reread everything bit by bit to get the context. Now, I personally don't think he got the proper context on the higher dimensionality portion, but I do like the example he uses when he says read the whole thing to get the rest of the context. That is true because that's part of reading comprehension. Context clues that provide you additional details of what they mean. Let's take a look at the feat here. So we're going to actually pull it up right on screen. Here we have it right here in front of us. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our search element and we're going to jump right into Google Translate. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Google Translate and we're actually going to use the statement here. So if we look here, even though it says Turtle Goblin and not Hermit, it says Turtle Goblin capable of destroying an entire star with his own energy. It is true that as the story progresses, lots of... we'll stop there. Let's stop there for a moment. So the statement here, and let's read it in Spanish as well. So if we actually pay attention, it says, El duende tortuga capaz de destruir con su propia energía, I believe it's pronounced, energía un astro entero. So, entero means entire. Astro, right? So we would assume, oh, astro, star, yeah. Let's kind of clarify this. And you guys can clip this if you want to show it for evidence. The actual context, astro in Espanol means celestial body, right? Don't believe me? When you look in the word el astro, it refers to a celestial body in the sky. Because the proper word Latinos use, or just in Spanish, to say star is estrella. La estrella is star. Even in la Santa Biblia, in le primero capítulo of Genesis, you'll see it'll say, and God, I believe it says, haciendo estrellas también, which means, and he made the stars also, in the book of Genesis. You'll see it in other literature. There are websites about little kids like Estrellas de Niños, which is talking about the kids like little stars, like as in kids. It's a very common way to use estrella. So this actually is not talking about star. And if you want further proof, let's read the rest of the context. And all my Latinos in the chat can contest to this, well, assuming they understand the basics of etymology. Tortuga, capaz de destruir con un propia enajera un astro entero. Es cierto que a medida que avanza la historia, aparecen montones, which is monsters, de enemigos capaces de destruir planetas sin despeinarse. So, roughly, it's basically saying they have fought later on throughout the history, they have fought monsters and enemies capable of destroying entire planets with no sweat or no difficulty. That is the proper translation. So if we're talking about people who could destroy planets, let's actually read. Then, if we're talking about people who could destroy planets, that tells you the context of astro is referring to celestial bodies. The moon, la luna, can count under the term astro. It can also refer to shooting stars and comets. It's a very generalized term to something that is in a celestial body in space, in Spanish. This is why they refer to planets being destroyed later on in the same conversation. I mean, bro, Roshi can destroy a star, but then they talk about enemies destroying planets. Why would that even matter? They even go to talk about how Roshi was the strongest for his time. So moon level was the strongest for his time. How are we assuming that's star? Or, oh, well, theoretically it could destroy a star. Or people coming up with random theories. Dragon Ball's moon must be star level. But Toriyama literally went on a case to say it's the actual moon when he had an interview in, I believe it was Germany, or it was a separate interview in a book. So again, this is why it's important to understand the context and not abuse Google Translate. And be careful on who you ask as a friend. Asking any Spanish person to translate it for you is never going to get you the results. Same with Japanese, because not all Japanese translators or people do translation for a living or understand literature context. You can understand Japanese, but when I asked Yu Yu Hakusho Forever, she actually reads Japanese books, and she doesn't just understand it in conversation. She actually reads it and look at the literature, because she also looks into Japanese literature. So if you're going to reach out to someone, look for someone who studies in the actual literature of the language and a little bit of etymology in the language so they can get a proper understanding of what it's saying. But this right here, even if I use the Google Translate to scale it, there's nothing to contradict. This book isn't a contradiction as far as this statement goes particularly. So no, Roshi is not star level. The context is very clear from the get-go once you read further. People just stop at that point and say, oh, because look, destroying entire stars with his own energy. It is true that as the story progresses, lots of enemies appeared capable of destroying planets without breaking. See, look, it says the bank. Notice it says without breaking the bank. See, Google's not that good. It doesn't say el banco. It said desperarse, which is supposed to more or less say like without breaking a sweat. I suppose you could say. Actually, let's get this here. Desperarse. Yeah. Let's see here. Translate. Enemies capable of destroying planets without breaking a sweat. Yeah. So you could see it right here. There's no editing. There's no trick. I'm using the same translator most people use. But even if you use that translator, the term star should kind of insinuate, wait a minute, that's not an actual star. It's the same mistranslation in the Saitama guidebook when they said Boros was star level. No, he's not. He's not at all. That was a mistranslation. Because they talk about how his star roar. I get it. It's called star roar cannon. But it's not actually star level. If it was, why would beings who are stronger than Boros? Yeah, I'll get to that. Let's read back the chat again. I might need a VPN to go on Dragon Ball Super site. They'd be gatekeeping. Consistently star level Roshi, especially with Dr. Slump scaling. Nope. Gonna disagree with that, because if you read what we just read, there's nothing consistent about it. Not at all. In fact, they needed a device. You can't jump characters to power scaling that's not consistent with the narrative. Daizenshuu would have clarified if he was actually star level, and Toriyama would have let us know. Because Toriyama, at the time, was pretty clear about what he wanted characters to be capable of doing. So there's no indication that Roshi would actually be star level whatsoever. Not even close. Roshi wasn't even planet level at the time. And that's a fact. Can't even argue that. I mean, you can argue if he throws an attack that powerful in the center of the Earth, it could rupture the Earth. Yeah, absolutely. You throw the moon at the Earth at the speed of light. Yeah, that's powerful. But again, that's not really the whole premise. The premise is this. Many people say the data book's a contradiction because it says Roshi's star level, but it doesn't say he's star level. So this not only gets rid of the highballers who are highballing Roshi to be way stronger than people who are taking this out of context and not reading it properly, using Google Plus only. I'm sorry, Google Translate. And this also comes to the people who say, oh, it's not reliable. Both parties did not read the full context. They didn't. Why would you talk about planets? I mean, you have to think, these are actual writers. These are people who went to college. These are professional writers, editors. They're smart enough to know the difference between a star and a planet, for the most part. Mangakas, I'll let it slide because sometimes they get tired and such, but a mangaka didn't write this book. Can King Piccolo destroy a planet? Theoretically, he can because he's stronger than Master Roshi, but it would probably be a planet as big as Pluto. It would probably be a planet as big as Pluto, logically. But King Piccolo is above the basics of moon level. But that's not... But besides the point, and this is going on to the next part, guys. Besides that point, let's get back into the basics of why I say this battle is not close. No, not even them, just the Frieza and Saitama battle. This is not close at all. It's probably one of the most embarrassing battles of all time. Well, I mean, if you could destroy the moon, you should be able to life wipe. That wouldn't be hard. Any moon level characters wipe. If you're Continental, you're life wiping. You want to be honest. You're large Continental, you're life wiping. Imagine if someone just took Africa off the face of the whole planet with a giant blast and all that smoke jump in the air. Everyone on Earth is dying. There's two types of life wipe. There's radioactive fallout, or basically the fallout from all the dirt and the magma that would be released from the Earth because it would cause volcanic eruptions around the planet. It would completely reshape the tectonic plates. It will cause so much subversion. Not subversion, what is it, subversion? I believe that's the terminology. It would cause different levels of earthquakes. What was it again? Earthquake. I'm trying to remember. Yep, alright. Yes, earthquakes. The epicenter, correct. So we have the epicenter of the earthquake, and then we got to consider other additional components of the earthquake. That is a big factor. Yup. Then there's the Eurasian plates, the North America plates, the tectonic plates, and then there's subduction. That's the term. So there's subduction zones, which are shallow, which the subduction zones is the areas that are closer to the surface. So when things occur in the subduction zone, you'll feel more quaking. When things are a lot lower, then of course, you'll see different types of quaking. If somebody completely removes that foundation, the whole planet is going to collapse on itself for most life. Everyone's dead. So again, if you want to get technical about it, like scientifically, like you don't need to be that crazy to be a life wiper. Like, but if you mean he's going to just create a radius blast that circumvents the Earth and destroys everyone, that's logically not possible. But for fiction purposes, you can assert multi-continental. But again, you don't need to actually have continental power to just wipe every human off the face of the Earth in a long blast that time. Because even the Tsar Bomba circled the Earth 3 times with a shockwave, and that's only 50 megatons of TNT. All you need is probably all you need is probably about 500 teratons, and it's a wrap. 500 teratons. That thing will circle the Earth so fast with its shockwave, it'll blow part of the atmosphere away. It's crazy. But that's the thing as well. Back to that, a lot of people don't know real science. You know what I mean? So a lot of people don't actually calc. A lot of people who make these scaling videos, they don't actually calc. And if you don't calc, you're going to kind of limit yourself. That's why it's important to know some levels of calcs or how to do proper calculation. But remember, you have to be open to having your calculations challenged or added on to. Never conclude that you have it completely mapped out perfectly, unless you're given exact measurements from the writer. Let's see. People think, yo, absolutely not, Isaac Bell. Absolutely not. There's no chance there would ever be that level. Not a chance. But let's answer the question, guys. So what's the final verdict? So Frieza versus Saitama. Let's get into it. How would this battle be with these titans? I'm going to be honest with you. Saitama wouldn't even make it past first form Frieza. Did I say that? Yeah. Believe it or not, Saitama wouldn't make it past first form Frieza. Let me give you a perspective of this feat. You got a guy sitting in his chair like me, right? He raises his index finger. His goal is to exterminate all the Saiyans. So he creates in his hand a ball or a beam. Judging from the size, as we can see here, the beam is about the size of a country. Woohoo! That's huge. And in seconds. He throws the beam down. Planet Vegeta has been reported, according to Daizenshu, I believe it's 4 or 7. But Planet Vegeta has been on record having the gravity of 10 times the Earth. King Kai also confirms this in the earlier chapters of the manga. So Planet Vegeta is either 3, 5, 7 times the mass of the Earth, or, which makes it large planet level, by the way, for those who don't know, or it's the size of the Earth but 10 times denser. The gravitation. So instead of 9.8 meters per second squared, we're talking 90. I believe it's 98.10 meters per second square. So you'd be falling at 98 meters per second in terms of like the drag. Plus drag kind of also gives you G's. So the G's you would experience there is insane. Insane. I can imagine how they can breathe on that planet and stuff because the oxygen becomes heavier. But the bottom line is, if the planet is compressed in its Earth size, that actually makes it scarier because that means the gravitational binding energy of a planet that dense still calcs to large planet level. See, people think it's linear and you just do, oh, okay, I guess I just add planetary of Earth and put 10 times on it. No, not necessarily. But even if we did do that for the most part, because we're not going to get too sciencey, because there's no way to actually scale something like this properly, given all the variables, it still is a very impressive feat. And again, I'm not even showing you the feat. Let's kind of take a look at here. See, it's country size. So we're seeing this constantly happen. We see Frieza do this in his first form. Now here's the key. Here is the key, my brother. Here's what you need to know. Here is the key. Let's go to page 18. Page 18 says, what the heck? I didn't ask to go there. Alright, let's do this. Yep, let's do this. Alright, whatever. So here's what we're gonna do. Let's go to Imgar. Cool, got it. Cool, let's go here. Bam. So, if we scroll in, as you guys have learned, you've seen this more. Si con una fuerza de combate de 10,000 se puede destruir un planeta, es inconcebible lo que se puede lograr. Somebody helps me with that. Lograr con 1,000,000. I know that it's saying if you have the power, if you have the combat power of 10,000, you can destroy a planet. It's inconceivable of that power, of what power of 1 million can do. So basically, it's inconceivable what a power level of 10 million can do. I mean, sorry, inconceivable what a power of 1 million can do. So, what makes this important is they're giving us a confirmation that the bare basics to destroy a planet is 10 million. 10,000. Given that now, is it safe to say Frieza's Planet Vegeta? It takes Frieza 10,000 to destroy Planet Vegeta. Yes, I think it is, because Roshi could destroy the moon at only 180 power level. Assuming the Kamehameha spikes your power level by twice, as we've seen versus Raditz, that means Roshi's power level is at least 360. Meaning 360 power level is what is required to destroy the moon. Power level has a higher logarithmic form of magnitude. It gets orders of magnitude higher the higher the power level is. It does. Because, characters who are power level of 5 are still human level. But, like, if you do the math, it's like, wait, we should be multi-continental by logic. But that's besides the point. The bottom line is, when you look at this, Frieza could blow up the planet with a finger. Roshi could blow up the moon at a power level of about 30-60. So, by logic, even someone like, by the power scaling algorithm, someone like Nappa should be close to planet level, or basically confirmed planet level. Or power levels can have like a logarithmic threshold, like, hey, it kind of works linearly until you get to 10,000. Once you get to 10,000, planets in general are just done. But if this is the case, and Frieza only needed that much, what makes it insane is that would mean he's using 0.004% of his power. Tens, hundreds, and thousands. That means it's 4,000ths of his power pulled this feat. We just talked about Saitama punching Dwarf Stars with a punch. Frieza using 4,000ths. Let me say it closer. Frieza using 4,000ths of his power was capable of destroying a planet with 10 times the Earth's density. Jupiter's only 2 times the density. And Saitama technically didn't destroy it. Jupiter only has 2.5 times the density, 2.8 times the density of Earth. And the overall gravitational pull is not really that crazy because it's mostly gas. I'm being honest with you. I'm not downplaying Saitama. I'm still going to give him the benefit of the doubt and give him Dwarf Star level power. Okay? Because he was bored during the fight. But that being said, my friends, that means Frieza could pull off Saitama's feat. Okay? Now remember, Frieza could pull off Saitama's feat. Now remember, we said it takes about 5,000. Let's rewatch my short so I can get the number. Let's get the number again. Let me see the actual number. You guys might hear it. I'm gonna get the exact number.
Why Saitama is too strong. Now, our hero certainly isn't a universe buster like everyone else is claiming him to be.
He's not.
He certainly isn't weak, and with power capable of punching and reflecting away a planetary attack, his new feat allowed him to sneeze from the moon Io all the way to Jupiter, which is easily light speed and a planetary feat, though he technically just blew off the gases of Jupiter, but we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Factoring in the
Joules of a sneeze is 0.3.
joules of energy from a sneeze and the joules of energy in a high-level boxing punch, he has at least 5,333.3 times the force to destroy a planet.
5,333.3. So let's take Frieza's power. Let's take large planet level. I'm going to use 2.7 yotatons as a very baseline. We're going to go by for the 2.7 yotatons. So for zetatons, I think that's, it takes 1,000 zetatons to go into a yotaton. So about 2,700 zetatons. So minus that by 5,333, and that means less than that. Frieza would be small planetary with his sneeze, allegedly. And that's a low ball on the large planet level. A high low ball. So basically, even like in the first form, even at even at this level of power, Frieza is incredibly ridiculous. So that means Frieza at 0.004% of his power is small planetary. So a sneeze from Frieza using 0.004% of his power is small planetary. Can't make this up. Chat, let me know your thoughts right now. Can't make this up. You can't. Like, you can't. We got 28 viewers. Let's try to get to 50. Keep it coming, guys. Share this links with your friends and family. Let them know what's up. But again, you can't make this up. Now, let's kind of talk a little bit about one more thing. If Frieza actually uses final form, which is confirmed to be, 200 plus times stronger than his first form, I did the math already, but basically Frieza would be at 0.00008. So again, 0.00008% of his power. 0.008% of his power. Tens, hundreds, okay? Thousands. 10,000. He's 800 thousandths of his power, his full power here. It would be 8 millionths if we use Mecha Frieza, who got 10 times stronger from his Namek. Though you could say 4 millionths because he was only at 50%. So yeah, I pay attention to detail. I still know he was only at 50% when he blew up Namek. So I pay attention to detail. That's the key. Pay attention to detail. You need these attention to details. And this is consistent for in this star level is consistent. Andre, you are my support, my friend. Am I wrong, or didn't Vegeta literally just said that's nothing Saiyans can't do? When when Shin talked about how he destroyed several hundred stars and planets or celestial bodies in the Japanese in just a few years, didn't Vegeta literally said that's nothing, even Saiyans can do that? He literally said, even Saiyans can do that. Vegeta believes, and he grew up with them, we got to take his word for it, in the manga, Saiyans were already allegedly star level. I'm assuming Vegeta most likely meant the elite and those who are in their Great Ape form, but most who are in their Great Ape form didn't hit 100k. They didn't. The average Saiyan power level was like, 1100-ish? 2000-ish? So at best, they're hitting 20k. And Vegeta believes they can destroy stars. So it adds up. You get what I'm saying? So even if we assume, he's likely talking about the Great Ape. Good. That supports the argument. Because most people say, but a power level of 2,000, didn't you just say it takes 10,000 to destroy the planet? Yeah, it does. So maybe Vegeta must have been talking about their Great Ape forms, which mathematically adds up. A lot of people say that's a headcanon, but it's not an assertion. It's not an assertion based upon a lack of evidence. So you can't use Hitchin's razor on me. All right? There's a hypothesis that is generated on a plethora of information in the series. We know Great 8 is a 10 times multiplier. We know Saiyans wreak havoc and are very powerful planet destroyers. And we know that Saiyans literally use that form all the time to take advantage. But again, even a Cerealian who blew up a moon, pop! In the manga for Super, Saiyans were like, dang, you got rid of that, but we're still strong enough to kill you. So they still killed him, one shot. You could be moon level, you'll still get killed. You'll get one tap by a Saiyan. That don't do nothing to them. So again, it supports the Saiyans are likely small planetary average on at first, but then they get into the star levels when they're in their Great Ape form. It sounds like it's a little too over the jump because a lot of people are like, but Saiyans can destroy stars. Why did they die from Frieza's attack? Because not a Saiyan on Earth was in their Great Ape form. Plus, they were off guard. And plus, it's likely this attack from Frieza literally had so many joules of energy. And like I said, power levels are logarithmic in a way. They don't really obey the normal function. So although it's a 10 times multiplier, it's a 10 times multiplier on their power level or their battle power, not a 10 times multiplier in stats. All right. Where does Anos scale? Frieza beat him. I'm not going to talk about Anos right now at this very second because I'm going to finish up. But basically what this means is Saitama, even if you say Saitama was 10 times stronger, look, let me give you this. Frieza could do a feat that could destroy a large planet at, 4,000th of this power in his base form. I need you guys to really, really think about that. Just sit down and think mathematically, my guys. Seriously, chat. I'm talking to you. Whatever you're doing, talking about Anos and all that, just focus. Frieza at 0.004 or 4,000ths of his strength in first form could pull off a feat at least 3 times greater than Saitama's sneeze. Now, I know Saitama is dwarf star level, I get it. But Frieza did that at 4,000ths of his power. The dwarf star level is taking into consideration a serious punch. This is all math. There's no bias thrown in. Saitama is not going to catch him. He's not going to outpower him. I'm not saying Saitama's weak, but you can argue via scaling. Even someone like Nail could arguably beat Saitama. Actually, I don't think that's arguable. I think that's factual. Yeah, Nail can beat Saitama. The Namekian Nail. Actually, yeah, he'll steamroll him. Yeah, he'll steamroll him. So, a lot of people think, but Nail is so weak. Perspective. Remember the topic, guys. Perspective. Nail is only weak to Dragon Ball characters who are stronger than him. Nail would have completely obliterated Nappa and Vegeta without even trying. So think about how strong Nail really is. Nail is insane. Now let's assume Frieza did this to Planet Vegeta and that it takes 10 times the power level 2. Let's say Frieza used up, if Frieza was in his first form, let's say he only used 100,000. Okay, cool. So he used about 20%, give or take, of his power. Nail's power level was confirmed to be 42,000. Yup. Nail's power level was considered to be 42,000. So even if we said Frieza destroyed that, that would mean Nail is still 4.2 times strong enough to destroy an entire planet. Keep in mind, the Planet Vegeta orchestrated around 2 solar masses but had enough density and strength to not allow itself to be ripped apart. It's quite consistent to see that. And it wouldn't make any sense for Frieza not to be at this level. So even upon the Planet Vegeta's feat, like this is incredible. Like a lot of people really don't, Yes, correct. Onyx 677, Vegeta is right. It does increase your base stats. But power levels on destructive capacity purposes do not increase linearly. Your strength may be lifting. Your physical body strength increases linearly. Let me correct myself. Your speed, physical body, those attributes increase linearly. Except for your ki. Your ki seems to expedite. Because let me give you a perspective, Onyx. Kid Goku had a power level of 10 could lift a car. Bulma had a power level of 6 or 5. And officially, like a human farmer had 5. And again, that's what the shotgun adds to his battle power. So maybe humans are like a 2. It doesn't matter if humans are only a 2. The bottom line is that someone at 180 blew up a moon. I don't think us getting 60 times stronger, we're going to be able to blow up the moon. Even if humans were 1 We wouldn't blow up the moon. So mathematically, it seems to have some orders of magnitude type of logarithmic formula. There's no way to concretely pinpoint the formula unless you want to do a weird formula with the Roshi to moon, but we don't actually know because they might have thresholds. Hey, from 0 to 150, you're like human level, you can destroy buildings and boulders, or like you can break walls. But once you hit 150, it's like you transcend into a different area of power, and now at 180 to 360, you could blow up the moon. And from 360 all the way to 10,000, then you can blow up a planet. It's like they kind of stretch it out to larger intervals. Yes, correct. Yakel, you are 100% correct. King Vegeta did indeed blow up a planet. King Vegeta does indeed blow up 3 planets. So you can see there's nothing to make up about that. So this backs up Vegeta's argument. So even though this feat, you can argue, well, this is not manga canon. There's nothing to deny King Vegeta can't do that, considering Vegeta's statement in the Buu Saga that Saiyans can easily do that. Backs Vegeta up. So it's one of those feats that occurred, but is consistent with the narrative. So even though the feat itself may have not occurred in the manga, it's easy and it's safe to assert, well, he could do that anyway. I'm pretty sure he can. He may have not done it, but he can do it. It's one of those things. Now, it's in Kai? You like Krabby Patties, don't you, Squidward? Nah, that's great, man. If this isn't Kai, that's a bit... Never mind. Well, then that confirms what I was saying. But let's get back to the main point. Because we've been spending a lot of time, or I've been spending a lot of time talking about Nail, right? It's been an hour in the stream. So we're about to close up the stream in another 30 minutes. So let's kind of wrap this up. The bottom line is Frieza can literally do all this crazy stuff and not break a sweat. It's insane. So, and then there's Kenshiki. Let's talk about Kenshiki versus Frieza. Because then a lot of people want to say, Kenshiki, though, he could split worlds. Look, this is what I meant by power scalers. We need to start asking more questions now. So the thing is, power scalers need to question more. We need to ask questions. Asking questions and bringing supporting evidence. Kaguya seems weird because it feels like she should be, she feels like she should be multisolar or universal in some cases. But then you have to look at the narrative. Does Naruto's narrative really give you the insinuation that these guys are destroying universes or can? No. Does it give you the indication that characters can destroy galaxies when they can? No. Does it give you the indication characters can destroy stars? No. Can they absorb things from stars? It's hard to say. No. The answer is no. The feats do not add to any levels of consistency. Most of Naruto's abilities and statements are all pretty much always data book. You would never know he's light speed without the data book. With no data book, he wouldn't be light speed. There would be occasions where you can use light speed, but he wouldn't be nowhere near like hundreds of times light speed if we didn't actually have manga statements. Data book statements. So, no disrespect to Naruto, but we need to start asking questions. So, Kenshiki could split worlds. This brings back the other topic. How many of you guys remember? Says it right there. Ding, ding, ding. This right here. Remember that? A lot of people forget that. I don't think people remember. People need to ask questions. Thank you, Macadamia. And by the way, Macadamia, shout out to Macadamia because this is what I have here with me. Yes. Macadamia is with me right now, bro. Nah. I should get insomnia cookies. I waste my money on sugar. No, but not now. I'm sorry, Macadamia. But ask questions. Oh, Kenshiki could split worlds. How easy is it for him to split worlds? How much effort? Oh, he could probably split worlds at like, what, 10% of his power? Okay. It only takes Frieza 8/100,000ths in his final form to do that. And not split them and blow them up. So, no comparison. Quite literally, this is pretty much confirming that first form Frieza in most cases. And I don't want to sound like a wanker. Okay? But 4,000s to 0 is 4,000. To 10, that's 40,000. To 100, which is 100%, that's 40,000. Frieza, if you are large planetary times 10, Frieza is 40,000 times stronger than you at the pinnacle of his first form. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. There's no comparison. It's over. You already lost. Just give up. So, this is just not about Dragon Ball power scaling, Dragon Ball wanking or anything. It's just about understanding for people to really get an idea that, guys, when you do these battles, like keep in mind, look at all the variables. Oh, but like Luffy will, like Natsu will punch Luffy and send him back in time. Okay, well, again, I'm going to ask you questions. How fast is Natsu? Oh, but he's faster than time. Okay, so what evidence do you have of that? Well, his punches burn through time and space. Is that the effect of his punch, or is that how fast he actually moves through propagated spatial space? You start asking the questions. They say, "Oh, well, that's really the effect of his fire." So it's a time hacks. Yeah. So it kind of sounds like that technique is really meant for people who have time-based regeneration, and maybe characters like Gojo who has spatial manipulation. Oh. Yeah, so burning through space and time. Sounds like he could do that. He might be able to get through a lot of barriers with that, barrier hacks. Bypass people with crazy barrier hacks and stuff. Sounds really impressive. But how fast is he? Well, this character who's light-based magic. Alright, cool. How much stronger is Natsu with a reasonable scale or a number suggested anywhere? Or even a phrase? The more you start asking questions, the more you start to break down that, well, maybe he's not that. Okay, maybe he's not that fast. So it comes down to, okay, so Natsu versus Luffy. We have statements that Luffy surpassed light speed because of Pacifista. Oda was very clear about it being light speed. We have statements from Burn D World being able to increase his speed from 10 to 100-fold. Luffy matched him in Gear Second. Keep that in mind. This is the same Luffy who and Gear Second is confirmed in a French guide and the Japanese translated guide to be at least many-fold or 10 times, which adds up when you do the Doriki scale. But if Gear Second is 10-fold, if it's 10-fold, then that pretty much adds to the point. Like Luffy was 10 times faster than light, or you can argue he's been way stronger than that because Luffy dodged light in his base form at Sabo de Acapello and in the War of the Best. And he dodged Foxy's light. And Zoro dodged Kuma's light when he was on the brink of death. These are blatant statements that they're light speed. Ichiro Oda in the narrative is letting us know. I'm not saying Fairy Tail is not light speed, but the amount of information you have to dig in order to get that information, it becomes really difficult. Yu Yu Hakusho, it was hard to scale their speed because there's nothing blatantly stating it. The closest we get is Genkai gives some numbers, and we can kind of calculate Yusuke throughout the series to kind of get an idea. Because Kuwabara was dealing with guys who could throw out photons. Genkai uses light-based attacks. In the Japanese translation, they give you a lot more context of the attacks they're using are light-based, flashes of light techniques. When Shishi Wakamaru outsped his shadow. We get cases like that. Fairy Tail, I'm not saying there. I'm 1,000% sure Fairy Tail has FTL. But to the degree of One Piece, does it really? This is what I mean by asking questions. I'm not saying who wins between Natsu and Luffy. I'm just giving an example like, okay, we got to ask you questions now. What if Natsu hits harder than Luffy? What supporting evidence do you have that Natsu has the speed or reaction time to deal with somebody who is consistently shown to be more than 10 times the speed of light in his base form when he first came back from the time skip, objectively, through the scaling of the series and the narrative? You ask him that, and you stare at them, and then you realize they may have to come up with ad hoc reasoning. So, regardless, let's get back to the basics. All right. And let me just address the fact 3D2Y. I'm going to ask you a question, Red. Why is 3D2Y not canon? What in 3D2Y contradicts what Luffy may or may not have learned? That's my question. The second question is, even if we don't use 2D3Y, would you agree that Luffy, in his base form, surpassed his Gear Second self when he fought the pacifistas at Salva di Acapello? The same Luffy who dodged light speed attacks, where even a fatigued Zoro could dodge light speed, and they've dodged pacifistas, and even Trafalgar Law reacted to a pacifista using Room. I also have to correct you, red hair. Red hair. I study in electronics with my grandfather-in-law. That's no offense, but flashes of light are 100% photons. Okay? And it always equals photons. Period. You know what a photon, if you know what a photon is, then you know anything that has a flash of light in it is a photon. But anyway, that's just what we generally say. Photons generally carry energy. Generally speaking, a photon is a photon. I didn't say Luffy was 100 times light speed. Because when he fought Burndy World used 10 times, but Luffy had grown stronger, and Luffy was learning more so how to use Haki in order to, and he got stronger as he fought, of course, but I'm not saying he's necessarily 100 times light speed. But I do agree with you though. Luffy does get his speed increase with his Devil Fruit, because the whole idea is to increase his speed. It's been even stated by Doflamingo that Gear Second was way faster, and he even admit, you got some crazy speed, but you have no power. It's like you're tickling me. Even though the same Gear Second Luffy was stronger than Don Shinjao, who could split an ice continent. But we're not going to get into that. I understand, Brad Hanlon. My apologies for misreading what you said, bro. But back to the main picture, guys, is we got to start asking questions again. Effort matters. Ask questions. Use the triangle. Understand that feeds, statements, lore, scaling. Look, we got 39 viewers. Yes! Let's go! Yes. Also, just want to thank you, RJ, for the $4.99 donation. I appreciate you for coming through, man. Really means a lot to me. How powerful is the universal Genki Namek? The Dama solidified Frieza Namek. That's a good question, because the thing is, we don't know how much energy he pulled. Because we know the Super Spirit Bomb in the Daizenshuu in other data books claimed it held the force of the entire universe. A lot of people and a lot of people think GT was the universal one. It's like, no, it wasn't. I mean, it is, but it's not the original. Because in the original, people say, oh, he got all the power from just the planet itself. Like, no, because literally in the same manga, he got power from the afterlife. So, and it had a tremendous destructive force that could have obliterated the Kaioshin realm, but they kind of got lucky on it because plot. But I would say the Genki Dama Goku used against Frieza, safe to say, like an honest scaling, and this is if I have to really look closely to calculate it, but the Genki Dama was strong enough. It was stronger than Frieza at 60 million, but wasn't strong enough to kill him. So I would say it's roughly around even if we say like 50 million, 55 million, or not even, like if we say it's like 65 million ish, 70 million ish for the power level of the Spirit Bomb, it would have to be roughly, if I had to give just a general guess, because I'm not calculating it, this is not absolute number, I would estimate it to be let's see. Frieza should be able to destroy a large star by the time he gets to his second form by calculations in the general algorithm, because they said it's inconceivable what one can destroy at 1,000,000. Utilizing statements in conjunction with the actual mathematics and the calculations, I will estimate it to be around solar system or solar system level incapacity and like destructive AP. Either that or supermassive large star level. Like we're talking VXY Canis Majoris type of thing. Because Namek is surrounded by 3 stars. And it can survive the solar mass of them. It's extremely dense. Even Frieza said, it's a tough cookie, I'll give it that. In the original OG funny dub. And actually, I didn't even Frieza comments that even in the manga, I believe. So yeah, Namek was a lot tougher than Frieza thought it was. So it's very clear that, and Frieza uses he intended to completely obliterate it, like go crazy, but it took a little bit longer than he expected even in Kai. So I would say, yeah, I want to say super large star level plus which super large star level plus is very close, not exactly, but very close to basically I'd say it's between super large star level and solar system. I'm not going to jump too crazy on that because I do believe Super Saiyan Goku and Super Saiyan Frieza for the manga are consistently star system, which is a little bigger than solar system because the star system is conjunction of multiple stars, which could be super far away within their own Roche limits. But yeah, I think Super Saiyan Goku should logically be in that star system. It's very clear they're in the star system level because Goku even quotes, "You could destroy entire stars, but you can't beat a single man." And Goku is implying his durability was far greater than a star or any celestial body that Frieza generally has destroyed in history. So it's safe to say Goku was more than double what his Spirit Bomb was at this point in time. Yeah, Goku's more than double what his Spirit Bomb was at that time, so yeah, it's crazy. That's my opinion, of course, and my assessment based on the evidence that we have to compile. I want to hear your thoughts on Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Are you hyped for it? Not really. I'm hyped for it in the sense of nostalgia, but I'm not super crazy for. Okay, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. I haven't gotten really hyped over a Dragon Ball game anymore because I'm not around my cousins anymore. But who knows? I might get hype. I just have to see it again. Oh, okay. Helenov says spiritual energy doesn't equal to our physical matter, since we don't know what's the difference between the two. But it's fine to say both operate the same for argument's sake. Agreed, Red Helen. Agreed. Unless it's stated otherwise, it generally should be considered to be the same. There are properties in light, but if they're reflecting light or photons, meaning characters can see it hit their retina and come back, then it's probably going to have properties of real life light. But like you said, it's going to have differences as well. So I think you bring a really strong point. Thanks for that. Goku already confirmed he gathered energy from planets and stars. Yeah. So if Goku gathered energy from planets and stars, I think solar system is probably the best conclusion on that. It would be the best conclusion. I want to not lowball it, but I don't want to highball it too. I think anime wise though, it's a different story. Namek Frieza is far above galaxy levels since the half-dead version resisted. Oh yeah, absolutely, Yakiel. Yakel or Yakiel, I agree. No, I haven't. I haven't seen it. I'm not too excited for Daima unless it's a continuation of Super. If it's not, I'm not excited for it. Or not that I'm not excited for. I'm interested in it, but I'm not excited for it right now because I always like finisher food. Imagine if they didn't release Final Fantasy Rebirth, and then they instead did like Final Fantasy 17, and it was like, look, 17 is like, that's cool. What about Rebirth? Kingdom Hearts 4. Kingdom Hearts 4 is different, but it's like, great. It's like, oh, we added DLC to Final Fantasy 7. Cool. Where's Rebirth? Look we got a Cloud amiibo from Rebirth, and we're gonna release it on Nintendo Switch. Okay, awesome. When is it coming out? So we might have a new Nintendo Pro, and then like Square Enix, you don't even work for Nintendo. What are you talking about? Like, imagine if they actually did that. That's kind of how it feels. So that's why I'm like, eh. Yeah, Bleach has gotten odd in its terms of scaling. If Super Saiyan 4 is stronger than Super Saiyan God, this either might be a case of death of the author, or it might actually prove a lot for GT. Maybe. It's a little awkward, though, to say that. But it could be in relation to, I have to read it myself to kind of see what's the context of it. To see if it's supported within the own narrative, or if they're trying to take things back, or they're retconning things with statements. So, anyway, back to the bottom line, guys. We're pretty much concluding at this point of the video, or the stream. Let's talk about one more thing I wanted to kind of address. I gotta paint a picture for this one. This one, I gotta paint a picture for it. Read. This one is called Read. Let's take a look at One Punch Man. I'm actually going to jump into chapter 167. The reason I'm jumping into 167 is we're going to go back a couple chapters previously. And yeah. Yeah, so, we're going to jump to this chapter. So let's get into some interesting things. So let's kind of read this out, because we're going to have to kind of talk about a couple things. And I'm going to have to teach people how to really look at a story critically. So sit back, grab your tools and pencils, guys. Let's kind of teach you how you're actually going to want to read a story or a narrative. Story by One Art. Okay. So we have Blast. All right. Blast's ability is to teleport and transport. So Blast is transporting them into space where the Serious Punch is coming. The Serious Punch doesn't immediately explode. It's causing a big, what could be a form of fission of energy compressing, and it's about to explode. He doesn't have enough energy to get them far away enough. So as stated, he says he's got to find a way. He gets outside help. They end up helping him cause the trajectory to reflect somewhere else. That's why you see it compress, and turn into a beam and explode, and it's shipped off. What you're left with is a artistic, and I'm going to clarify this. You're left with what we call an artistic choice. Murata wants to clarify to you, hey, by the way, guys, we're in space, in case you forgot. So I'm going to draw a bunch of stars. And then you think to yourself, okay. Yeah, so here's a bunch of stars. And what's left is supposed to be a hole from the explosion, kind of showing that they kind of warped space because they were moving clearly faster than the speed of light. Because it says, the repercussion from that energy, I have no idea how far they went. The indication is they went super, super fast somewhere else. Now, we immediately look to the left page. We have an indication because we see the same beam, boom, crash landed on what? The moon Io. And what's that in the background? Wow! So we see, okay, we know how far they went. They went about 450 million miles away in about what looks to be a second. Clearly, that's clearly faster than light. But what is this hole? It's an artistic choice because I'll point out why later. It's an artistic choice because we can't assume by the circumference here that several thousand stars were destroyed. And this definitely ain't galaxy level. That's a fact. These are stars. But even upon this is just Murata trying to show you, hey, by the way, we're in space. Here's stars. The consistency is also supported when you see the fact that when they're fighting, okay? Amazing art and fight. When you see them fighting, you see this. Now, first off, look at it from a perspective of logic. And this is where people's brains start to get too hype on the art. You get too hype on the art, you forget to use logic. This is a case, okay? This is a case where you can't assume these characters went into another star system to destroy all those stars and then jump back to Jupiter in a second. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up to whatever they're saying. There's no evidence to even suggest that. It's just conjecture. People just want to get Saitama up there, so they just make up some random arbitrary scaling. Let me give you guys a true perspective. Let me paint a picture for you. Check this out. This right here, this is Earth. Yes, this is going to be Earth. And this, you'll see in a minute. This is the sun. Haha, pretty cool, right? So here's the Earth and the sun. So the Earth, let's utilize the Earth's circumference. So the Earth, based on the basic general scaling, and it looks pretty cool, right? Yeah, the Earth. All right. So anyway, oh no, now it's but anyway, based on what we see here, right? All right, let's get back to Earth. So we got Earth. We got the sun. We got the Earth. So based on what we see here, we have this is the planet Earth. You see this? This is the Earth. It should be 24,000 miles across, but in generally speaking, that's across around the planet. So we're looking at about 12K, like not 12K, but like 10K, 10,000 miles here, just about, right? About like 18,000 kilometers. So if we consider this here, and I use my finger, which is 3 inches, here we could see I could fit 1 and 2 and 3 in the segments. So about 1/3 of an inch, just about. But we're going to say, we're going to squish it here to about 1/4 inch. So basically these are not into scale. Let me give you a perspective, okay? So pay attention. If this was the Earth, about 1 inch, let me tell you this. This is 1 inch. So 1 inch is equal to 10,000 miles. I'm going to pull up my calculator so I can kind of give you guys an idea. This is just give you an idea. So 10,000 miles is equivalent to a 1/4 inch in real life. So a 1/4 inch in real life is equivalent to that. So 0.25. Okay, cool. How many of these is this away? Because it's 10,000. So 94 million divided by 94 million miles divided by, let's say, 10,000. Oh my goodness. Divided by 10,000. All right, cool. So I need about 9,400 of these away. So you do the math, you multiply it by the inch, and that gives us by a 0.25, we get about 2,350 inches, or approximately, divided by 12, 195.83333333 feet. So basically, that means here, a foot, this is about a cubit, right? So this is 18 inches. So to give you a perspective here, this is about a cubit, this is about a foot. An average man's foot here is about the size This is about the size of an average foot, about 12 inches. That's why it's called foot, etymology-wise. This is about a fade. I need 195 of these lined up. There's a gas station outside my house. We would literally have to almost go across the entire street to the gas station to give you a perspective of where it is. So this right here, if this now let's paint another picture. Let's change the color. Let's change the color. And I need people to understand this because people are not paying attention. Let's say this is Earth, which looks more like Neptune, but this is Earth. If this was the moon, right, or the moon in size, it would be more like this, right? You guys see it? So this is the moon. Okay. So to give you an idea, if the moon, by size, the Earth is about, let's say 10,000, you need, it would be the moon in perspective. I can't even do it. I sincerely can't even do it, guys. It's like so difficult. If this was the moon, right? But the moon was here, this would be past this wall. Like this here. Well, actually, no, this is kind of accurate a little bit. So it would be more so like this would stay here, just about there. This would be more so over here. This would be where the moon is. So to give you a perspective, Alpha Centauri, and I already did the math. So to kind of give you an idea, Alpha Centauri would be, if this was our sun, right? To give you an idea of how far a distance or a light year is, Alpha Centauri would be from here where I am, which is So I live in Rhode Island. It would be from here in Rhode Island all the way to Shanghai, China, would be where Alpha Centauri is. Do you understand how big of a distance that is? 7,800 plus miles. I am not making this up. So you expect me to believe Saitama and Garou traveled up to 50 to hundreds of light years away, blew up with octillions of tons of, no, more than that, vengentillions of tons of TNT, vigentillions of tons of TNT, and then just came all the way back in a second, back to Jupiter. But here's the problem. Here's where the problem starts. They did all of that, we're assuming, and then for some reason, where he's like, oh, where's the ground? Where's the ground? Blah, blah, blah. When you look here, this is why you know it doesn't scale at that level. Because one is still a logical writer. You see this, Saitama does expeditiously get stronger. But when you look at this stuff, when he sneezes away, when he does this feat, it's incredible. Look at the reaction. Remember, now let me give you another perspective. If this was Jupiter, look at my little camera up here. This was Jupiter, our sun would be bigger than this. Actually, Jupiter would be like this quarter. This quarter, and this would be like the sun. And this would be Jupiter in comparison. This actually might be a little bit bigger if it was our sun. So, you want me to believe they can destroy big giant stars like that? You want me to believe they can destroy entire stars like that? Because I get it, his sneeze did this. I did the calculation, he's dwarf star. But you want me to believe that Garou was part of destroying the stars and survived that somehow. But look at his facial expression. When Goku saw, when they saw that Frieza can blow up planets consistently in the narrative, Goku wasn't afraid. When Toneri cut the moon, Naruto wasn't afraid. When you want to show a character is capable of handling or taking on something, you show it. Their reaction. Garou was terrified. He said, he's crazy, what a monster. He's an animal, shouldn't be less loose on Earth. And he said, but so am I. Because his whole idea was he was going to use the sun, or he was going to do other abilities to kind of take advantage. I got it. Transference is possible with anything. Because his idea, yeah, if I get you over here, you'll die. I'll get you to the sun. You might die. Saitama happened to come back. I'm not saying Saitama couldn't survive the sun. But they seem to imply that he fought for the narrative purpose instead of making him trying to just Superman back. Whatever. We're not talking about that. The bottom line is, yeah, I can get him to the sun. Also, by the way, peep game. Jupiter hasn't blown up. It's still there. I had a cut. I guess YouTube had a cut on me. I don't know. Exactly, Andre. Garo is a very powerful character, but I gotta just set the record straight for you guys. So Garo is a very powerful character, and I'm not denying that, but I gotta set the record straight for you guys. People need to do this. Read. Because people are not reading and they're jumping the gun all the time. Hey, these characters can do this. Why would Saitama be galaxy level? Like, do you honestly understand how big I showed you how big Alpha Centauri was. Do you honestly have any idea how big a galaxy is? Like, if I were to give you an idea, like, I want you to... Let me give you an idea. Let's do this. Let's do this. I'm gonna take my macadamias. Yes, I'm gonna take this little piece right here. You see this right here? You see this? You can't see it really. It's like a little piece. Right there, yeah. If this little piece was the sun, right? You see it. Can you focus? I don't even know if I can show you guys. It's like a tiny piece on my hand. It's fingertip. I don't think I can focus on this. Oh boy, this is tough. I don't think I can actually grab the focus here. There, you see it's like right there. Barely right there. It's a tiny little crumb of a macadamia right there. See that? So let's say if this was our star. If I put a billion of these, if I put just 1,000, I'd probably get here. If I put 10 million, I'd get here. Right? If I put like 1 million, I'd probably have them like lined up this far. Alpha Centauri per perspective would still be like 3 miles away from me right now. So in the perspective of how big our galaxy is, oh my gosh. Square miles wise, our galaxy, let me see. So let's say a mile is a light year. Let's do square miles of Texas. Perfect. The little crumb in my hand you just saw is the equivalent of our sun, and the rest of the state of Texas is the Milky Way. That's maybe not that small, but more like something like this. If this was the sun, give or take, probably a little bit tiny, a little bit smaller still. Something like this. If this was our sun, the entire state of Texas would be the Milky Way. You want me to believe Saitama can blow up a galaxy? This is why I'm coming back to see the basics of power scaling. People need to put this in perspective. A lot of people will just want to say universal, outerversal, multiversal, any of these things. But they're not actually doing the math to understand how big of a magnitude these jumps are. These things are incredible. These things are insane. Saitama is, I'm sorry, it's no disrespect. Well, it's not a disrespect. I'm just keeping it factual. But keeping it 100% with you guys, Saitama is not even close to these levels of power. Saitama's not. And to be honest with you guys, there's with all due respect, you can't compare the two guys. Now, as far as Saitama versus Goku, I mean, those are levels of infinity. Saitama, he can't fight Goku anymore. It's an inaccessible, unnecessary. It's a battle that can't really prosper. If Goku's truly trying, because it's a death battle, he flexes his aura at 1/infinitieth of an infinitieth of his lower three-dimensional power and destroys Saitama's entire body and cells. It's not a fight. And this doesn't mean One Punch Man isn't a fantastic series that everyone should go read and support, but it's just to show you guys that when it comes to power scaling, you need to start putting things into perspective. Dragon Ball is just a completely different series. It's like in Marvel and DC territory. It's not something you need to compare with most shonen. I can even make an argument with manga level Yuha. I don't even think manga level Yuha really would beat Frieza, because he would go to every reality and realize, I don't think there's a single reality where I can beat this guy. That's probably what would happen. Dang, I don't even think there's a reality I can even beat this guy. Yeah, there's not. There's not. Every reality, Frieza blitzes you and just kills you. His attack's explosion. It was his attack's explosion. But this is a little weird, because it looked like he wanted to take him to the sun. And the only reason why I say that is because I got it. Because he says, is that the sun? I got it. He rushes towards the sun. It says transfers possibility anywhere within sight. So because he could see the sun, the flash you're seeing is the sun. And that's him just dropping off Saitama at the sun. And then he's flying away. So yeah. I'm pretty sure he tried to throw him to the sun. Unless you have another interpretation. That wasn't really his attack. That's him dragging Saitama's face into something and then teleporting away. And the context tells us that he was flying closer to the sun. You see it scan by scan. So I'm pretty sure he flew him into the sun. I'm not knocking anyone in the chat. I love you guys. But this is what I mean. Critical thinking is very important with power scaling. We have to read and get the whole context. We can't... Like, if you're reading this and you think, oh, that was Gaara's attack, it shows that you might need to have a little more practice on your, your sense of context clues. Like, I think is that, like, I get it. You got to read it a little bit more, man. You clearly see it bit by bit, and you see the Japanese onomatopoeia, guam, indicating speed and travel. All right. Anyway, we're about to conclude. Galaxy's like 50,000 solar systems in a straight line diameter. Yakel? It's actually more than that. I'm not joking. It's more than that. Let's look at the Oort cloud. Just a general demonstration. This is the Oort cloud. Within 100,000 astronomical units. How many astronomical units? How many astronomical units is a light year? 63,241. Cool. So, give or take about right here, it would be 100,000 solar systems of our magnitude to do that in a straight line. You were close though, which is insane. Masurdor, the Grand Kai should be anywhere between I don't know actually. I don't know actually how strong he is. I'm not sure. Manga, you are not even making it past Saiyan Saga. Alright, he might make it past them. Maybe. Yeah. It just depends on how you want to scale Dragon Ball. Because Roshi has light speed attacks. Andre just found something. I mean, people think Yuha can beat Bayonetta. Donaz, I know you got something to say about that. Yuha beating Bayonetta. What are your thoughts on that? Garo was happy to see the sun because he found Earth. Alright. Let's jump and read it again. People don't trust me, bro. People think my reading comprehension is bad. I get it. Or maybe you don't think that. Maybe this is just your reading comprehension. But let me just kind of show you what I'm talking about. He says he's an animal too. And while they're traveling, he says, is that the sun? He says, I got it. You say he was happy to see the Earth. But here's what happens. He jumps. He goes past what we would assume is Mars. Okay? Then he goes up and then we see what is our Earth, the planet. And then we see Earth and the moon. And then he says, aha, transfer is possible to anywhere in sight. Luck is still with me. We see him flash. And then we see him, boom, bounce away and says, see ya. Jumps to a teleporter and comes back and says, awesome, I'm back. Haha, I win. If he was excited to see the Earth and dropped Saitama off in the Earth, the explosion would have happened on the Earth. He teleported Saitama to the sun and left him and then came back. Saitama got scared by an explosion and farted by accident. It's you, but I knocked you in the opposite direction. They weren't flying in the direction of Jupiter. So where they knock him at? I'm saying, guys, is my reading comprehension that shaky? As far as I'm concerned, he got nervous because he's like, wait, I knocked you in the opposite direction. That flash started me and I farted. And instantaneously it's caught up. Again, take a look at this. Murata is at it again. Murata saying, oh guys, by the way, we're in space, so let me just draw a bunch of galaxies that have no context. Because every other scan you see of space, you never see galaxies in the background. So, yeah. Just Murata having an artistic choice. Because you go back and you don't see it. And he gets punched down into Earth. Alright? Go again. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. GG's, though. I don't know, man. Nah, you read it right, in my opinion. Thanks, Donaz. I appreciate that. He knocked him away from the sun and took the gate away from the sun? Why would he knock him away from the sun when he could teleport? He used his teleportation technique. You see it here. He literally uses his teleportation. Because he even says, see ya. And he's not knocking him the opposite way. He's knocking him forward. Otherwise, why would you mention the sun? Oh, the sun. So that means Earth is nearby. I don't think that's it. Because what good would it... Like, why would he be happy about that? Like, Answer this. I knocked him back into Jupiter, the place he almost just blew up. That's not the opposite direction. They're coming. If Jupiter is here, yeah, if he knocked him in the opposite direction, that means he knocked him towards the sun, because they're flying towards the sun. He directs them to fly at the sun. He sees the sun is there, turns around, and flies towards the sun. As you could see, because you see the Japanese onomatopoeia inferring that they're getting closer and closer and moving. So they're moving towards the sun. If the sun is here, they're moving towards it. So he knocks him there, boom, and heads back to Earth. Now you could say, oh, he knocked him in the opposite direction. Then why is the explosion coming from the sun area and Jupiter's all the way back here? See what I'm saying? Why would Jupiter be in frame towards where the sun was? And we know it's towards where the sun was. You know why we know? Because you literally see there. And plus, we also have to factor in the solar system is not really linear. It's kind of funny. We always seem, and we artists always seem to draw it in that way. We always make it seem like it's linear, but it's like, no, Mars could be all the way over there, and Jupiter could be all the way over there, and they're still making their cycles around the planet. So he just happened to fight Saitama when the planets were aligning. But besides that, you see explosion. Unless you're saying he threw him near Uranus. But it doesn't make sense because based on the trajectory of where you see the big explosion now, right? You see this, and you see this. Ba-boom. And then, you know they're flying past this. Look at my cursor. You know they're flying past this part because you see the flash around this area. So if he knocked him in the opposite, because let's see actually. This could, you could have a point. Let's see. So let's see. They fly this way. And this could also be Murata's misinterpretation. Let's take a look. So he's looking down at the explosion. He flies away. So let's see. The ball is here. So he's flying towards us at the camera. So this is where he's going. He's going this way. So Earth is back this. Okay. Let me see. I got it. The sun, I got it. Transfer is possible. Okay. Then he knocks him back. You see an explosion. Which is weird because the explosion's on the opposite side of Jupiter where they went flying from. And he says, see ya. And then flies away. But then he says, awesome, I'm back. And that technique seems kind of handy. It's you, but I knocked you in the opposite direction. Yeah, my stomach was all cold. So I was holding it in. But then the flash startled me. You know what, chat? We might have to give a round of applause to Slyboy. Slyboy might have a point because when you either Murata is inconsistent here, or maybe he didn't try to bring him to the sun. It's a weird take. So he's saying it's the sun because he knows the Earth is in that direction, which is kind of stupid because planets aren't aligned properly. Like if you look at the way planets are grid on the solar system, they're all kind of doing this. Like the Earth isn't always going to perfectly be in conjunction where Jupiter is. So him seeing the sun and saying, oh, that's the sun. I know Earth is towards that way. I guess. But then it also comes down to, well, how do you know where Earth is or the alignment of Earth? Because they flew so fast, he saw the Earth. And because he was able to see the Earth, he was able to, I guess, use that and then transfer. Or you could argue he teleported right here. So let's see. They're flying here and it could be in slow motion. So maybe they're not away from Jupiter. Maybe this is Garo's vision. But this is perfect. Slyboy, I'm glad you came in because you just allowed another new topic. Thank you. And I will humbly give a round of applause to Slyboy Thanks for giving your level. Thanks for giving your assessment. Let me look that up, actually. Let's look up the onomatopoeia. Okay. I got it. Fweesh. Flash. Okay. Let's see. Speed lines of zooming in. Speed lines seem like they're zooming in. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. In English, words like zoom, bang, flash are all onomatopoeias. Also note we attribute animals. Japan has equally, yep. Japanese tend to make things, okay, maybe my favorite is... Okay. Yes. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody else we can kind of look into that a little bit further, but it could be insinuating zoom. I know the heart is usually toki, 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 or bida, 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 bida. Things like that. Certain Japanese sounds. So if I'm looking at this verbatimly, I don't want to see that. If I'm looking... what the heck that was? If I'm looking at this, it could be a zoom. It could be a zoom sound. It could be zoom, 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 zoom. So basically, Garo has supervision saying zoom, 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 zoom. Aha! Transference is possible to anywhere within sight. Luck is still with me. So it seems like they're traveling, but you can argue because his feet is facing this way, they're not flying at the sun. They're kind of flying this way, right? So if we take what Slyboy's saying, he's flying this way, right? I guess the dialogue indicates he teleported, considering Saitama referenced his technique. But if memory serves, Garo flew and sprung out of the explosion, since why Saitama sped behind him. What caused the explosion? We know he goes this way. It's weird because the light gives you the impression it's the sun. But in reality, he's going this way away. His feet are facing, and then he's like flying. He turns his head like, so he's looking this way. So he's flying this way, but he's looking this way. So he's not actually flying there. He's zooming in. So Slyboy, good job. So Slyboy figured out that it's not towards, that he saw the Earth there. That's why when he saw the sun, he knew that the Earth was around that area. And so I looked at the onomatopoeia again, and I was wrong. This onomatopoeia is zoom, not zoom as in, because in America we say zoom like this. This is an onomatopoeia as in like closer, like visually. So in that case, if this is what we're thinking, he sees the sun and thus he's able to use supervision to see the Earth, locates it, teleports. So Saitama, he's holding on Saitama this way. Then he takes him. You see an explosion. Bam! And he blows him away that way, flies forward, and then teleports. Then, as a result, he's like, yes, I'm back. I win. But then Saitama says that technique seems kind of handy. So then he says, it's you, but I knocked you in the opposite direction. Yeah, my stomach was all cold. And then he goes that. So he tried to fly back to Earth. And Saitama happened to keep up with him by accident due to that explosion. So the explosion was Garou's attack, I believe, which is behind Jupiter, implying he threw him behind Jupiter and left, which could imply they blew up Jupiter based on the size of the explosion. Because it could be he blew up Jupiter, because you look at it here, he says he's a monster that shouldn't be let loose, but so am I. So he's also like, oh man, this dude's insane, he's a beast, but I'm a beast too. So watch this. And he's like, oh, perfect. Boom! He didn't even want to fight him. He didn't want to square up with Saitama. He just said, nah, this dude's stronger than me, but I got a trick up my sleeve. Take that. Bam. Blew him up. Flew away. Went back to Earth like, yeah, I'm back. I win. Because there's no way Saitama's going to float his way back without solid ground. And then this happens. So, yeah. Problem solved. But still proved... So... I guess he wasn't going to throw Saitama into the sun. But it still implies one solid thing. Unfortunately, it still doesn't confirm. It's more so just context clarified, but it doesn't really imply any particular power gaps per se. Unless you want to say Garou may have, we haven't confirmed it, may have blown up Jupiter. Really impressive. Yeah. No, Machi, that's exactly right. He can only teleport to what he sees. But overall, guys, that has been the stream today. So this was a fun assessment. But that's what I said, interpretation. Interpretation is important because... As you've seen, when I actually said, wait, is my interpretation wrong? Hold on, I'm not reading this right. I reread it, but I said, let me slow down. Slyboy brought up a good point. He said opposite direction. I said, wait a minute. Let's review. Now, chat, right or wrong, if most people looked at this, including you guys, if you looked at this, right, and you saw Garou said, oh, it's the sun. And if you didn't understand what this onomatopoeia meant, you would assume that Garou in them is flying towards the sun. Right? Or they're flying towards that area and that he teleports Saitama into the sun, of what you would assume, generally speaking. And you would just, and because this blast is behind Jupiter, you would assume, oh, that's a big explosion, which must be coming from when he left Saitama. And then you see him say, see ya, and he goes back. You would assume he flew him to the sun, threw him out there, and thought, yeah, that should kill him. And then flies back to Earth. You would assume that, right? Is this a fair assumption upon first gander? Mm-hmm. Thanks, Macadamia. Mm-hmm. I hear you, Andre. Right. But Slyboy, being a sly genius, actually brought up a good point and said, wait, but it's hard. He went to the opposite direction. So when Slyboy said he went to the opposite direction, I said, wait a minute, you're right. Opposite direction. I kept saying it in my head, like, no, because that means he's bringing him to the sun and he flies back the opposite way to... But I said, wait, that if they were flying to the sun, that would make sense. But the key that gave it away was page 30 right here. Page 30 shows the explosion behind Jupiter. So we're assuming, oh, that's where the sun and the earth and stuff is at. That just must be there. But then you go back, and you realize, wait a minute. They flew here at us. They're flying at us. So the hole is there, and they're flying away from the hole. The explosion happens behind the hole. So then when you see I threw you in the opposite direction, he threw him behind the hole, meaning he threw him back towards Jupiter's direction. So Slide Boy, again, guys, let's give a round of applause. I want to see some hands in the chat for Slide Boy. That really good assessment. But that's why I say interpretation is important. Even and I'm going to own up to it, Atari misinterpreted the actual scan. And this is great because I'm not embarrassed by it. I'm actually happy because this actually brings a point to what I was saying about power scaling. You have to have an open mind and say, okay, hold on. Let's look at it together. Let's reread it again and look at it together. Oh, I see what you're saying. Hold on. And then he says this, and then he says that. Sly Boy gets where I'm coming from. But then he had a good eye, like Jimmy Kudo, and said, wait, but the hole is this way. They flew away from the hole. Why is the hole behind the light? Unless he just threw him there and then went back, because he said the opposite direction. The opposite direction of Earth. Either argument works if this page didn't exist. If this page didn't exist, then it would be interpretive. Fortunately, we can nail and triangulate. Boop, boop, boop. We can kind of triangulate the actual point. So, the teamwork makes the dream work? Nah, bro. Well, kind of, but it's mostly all you, man. You're the one who actually brought it up. So this is good because you can see Atari has been live stream. I was talking about people's comprehension and reading comprehension. I got humbled myself on stream to see, wait a minute. I'm talking about being open-minded. Let me practice what I preach. So I went and said, let's get open-minded. I looked at what he said. He turned out to be more correct than I was because, well, it's not about more correctness. It's rather he ended up being correct in his assessment because he paid attention to the details. That is being detail-oriented. And you could see this is what we need more in power scaling. Because now we kind of have an idea. Because most will take this like I did, and I would say, oh, that goes, well, if he threw Saitama at the sun, he believes that Saitama would die from the sun. And Saitama had to fart his way away from the sun so he wouldn't get burned up. Truth is, we don't know if Saitama can or can't survive the sun. I likely think he could, because if he can dwarf star level, it would probably make a little bit of sense. So with that being said, I say this is a very good way to end the stream. That's the power. Wait, wrong hand. That's the power of interpretation. Interpretation is very important because if you are reading it with the key details and you're properly interpreting it, then you're going to get a better result. Oh man, Saitama, man, Garu threw him at the sun. The plot demanded Saitama far away from the sun because he would have probably died. No, you actually wasn't flying at the sun. Garu caused a big explosion. The explosion was so big, it looked like it may have even blown up Jupiter, actually. So if anything, thanks to Sly Boy, we might have gotten a new feat for Garu. Garu might actually have confirmingly destroyed the large planet Jupiter, which is supported by 3 pieces of evidence. The size of the explosion and the fact that the explosion kind of engulfs, it kind of overlaps over Jupiter. So that might be proof that he blew up the rest of Jupiter. And the second reason is he even says, I'm also a monster. Kind of implying, yo, he's a beast, he's stronger than me, but that don't mean I'm not a beast. I got a plan. And that's basically what Garu thought. Like, I got a plan. I'm going to blow this monkey up. Like Frieza, like Andre said, pulled the Frieza. He didn't call Saitama a monkey. But he did say, I'm going to blow you. You know what? Boom! You just see a big explosion. Peace. Bam. Because Saitama says, oh, a big explosion happened. Well, why would an explosion startle Saitama unless the explosion was big enough to actually cause him to get scared and fart, I guess. And being next to the sun, why would your stomach get cold if you're next to the sun? So again, that's another thing. The deeper you dig into it, the more evidence you find. Like, wait, if he was going to the sun, why is his stomach cold? He must have been way away from the sun, like in Jupiter, where it's like minus 190 or something. Anyway. Woo! That was great. What a great stream, and I think this is a great way to end it off. So with that being said, guys, this was a great conversation. I hope everyone learned a little bit of something about this. Again, One Punch Man is definitely not weak, but it's just goes to show if we're having death battles, like, come on, let's be a little bit more realistic. Characters are not going to completely end it all in one shot. And also, like, the whole, Goku in character would probably let his opponent power up. I'm like, no, he wouldn't. If it's a death battle, Goku's gonna straight up just beat him. Because the whole idea, it's a death battle. So Goku's going to just win. He's just going to win. He's just going to go straight for the win, and that's it. Bam. He's done. In character, Goku always just finishes the battle. He's going to win. Now, if it's a casual encounter, Goku don't know who it is, then he might, let me test my Ultra Instinct. Yeah. Ooh, ooh, ooh. You know, whatever. Anyway, guys. There is a Dragon Ball cosmology, but we didn't have enough time today in today's stream. If this video makes enough likes, who knows? Maybe I might actually stream tomorrow and give us a breakdown of the new cosmology scale for the new map and how that could be interpreted. But anyway, okay, maybe I won't. But maybe when the next time I do come to stream, it'll be a great one. So everyone, thank you everyone for stopping by. This has been Atari HMB. Thank you again, Roz. Thank you again, RJ. Thank you again, everyone, for the donations. Thank you everyone who came by. Again, if anyone I came off as rude, I want to apologize because, again, my intention here is to bring peace and, you know, general discussion. It's about discussion, not about who's right and wrong in the power scaling. So let's have more fun in the power scaling community. And again, this is Atari HMB, and I'm signing off. Peace.